Welcome back to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today we delve into the chilling story of one of Scotland's most infamous criminals. On January 13th, 1958, the reign of terror inflicted by serial killer Peter Manuel came to an end with his arrest, a moment that brought relief to the communities of Lanarkshire and Glasgow after a series of heinous murders. Peter Thomas Anthony Manuel was born in New York City on March 13th, 1927, to Scottish parents. His family returned to Scotland when he was a child, settling in Lanarkshire. Manuel exhibited troubling behaviour from a young age, including petty theft and aggression. By his teenage years, he had developed a criminal record, which eventually escalated into more serious offences. His disturbing capacity for manipulation and violence became clear early on. Despite his early crimes, he was often able to evade severe consequences, due in part to his charm and ability to represent himself in court. These traits would later become pivotal during his trial for murder. Manuel's string of killings began in the mid 1950s, terrorising the central belt of Scotland. Between 1956 and 1958, he was responsible for the deaths of at least 8 people, although some suspect the actual number was higher. His known victims included Kneilands, a 17-year-old whose brutal murder on a golf course in East Kilbride first revealed Manuel's capacity for extreme violence. Although initially questioned, Manuel evaded prosecution due to lack of evidence. Another case that shocked the nation was the murder of the Watts family in High Burnside, near Glasgow, where Manuel killed William and Marion Watt and their 16-year-old daughter, Vivienne. His victims also included Isabelle Cooke, a 17-year-old girl last seen on her way to a dance. Her disappearance prompted a massive search, and her body was later discovered buried in a field after Manuel confessed to the murder. Manuel's modus operandi included breaking into homes, stalking his victims, and using both blunt force and firearms to carry out his crimes. His ability to evade capture frustrated authorities and heightened public fear. Despite the horror of his crimes, Manuel's downfall came from his own arrogance. In early January 1958, following the murder of taxi driver Sidney Dunn, a crime Manuel would later admit to, detectives began to close in on him. Dunn's stolen vehicle, which Manuel had been using, linked him to the crime. On January 13th, 1958, police arrested Peter Manuel in Lanarkshire. His arrest was met with widespread relief, as communities in Scotland had lived in fear of the Beast of Birkenshaw, as he was dubbed by the press. Manuel's trial, held in May 1958 at Glasgow High Court, was one of the most sensational in Scottish legal history. Representing himself for much of the proceedings, Manuel demonstrated his arrogance, cross-examining witnesses and even taunting the families of his victims. Despite his theatrics, the evidence against him was overwhelming. He was convicted of 7 murders and sentenced to death. On July 11th, 1958, Manuel was executed by hanging at HM Prison Barlinnie in Glasgow. His death marked the end of one of Scotland's darkest chapters. The case of Peter Manuel had a profound impact on Scotland. It highlighted both the challenges of policing in an era before advanced forensic techniques and the devastating consequences of unchecked criminal behaviour. Manuel's crimes also led to a renewed focus on criminal justice, with authorities introducing more rigorous investigative methods in the years that followed. Today, the story of Peter Manuel serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers posed by individuals capable of such calculated violence. His name remains infamous in Scottish history, a symbol of the darkest aspects of human behaviour. Thank you for joining us today on This Day in Scottish History. I'm Colin MacDonald, inviting you to tune in tomorrow for another exploration of Scotland's past. Until then, stay safe, and as always, haste ye back.